billion. It's also purchased for $1.2 billion cash a New York company that makes hospitality management software. Rich Thomason, Washington.
A Kentucky woman was in a sticky mess when she found stacks of boxes containing lollipops on her doorstep. The surprise delivery was ordered by her young son while he played on her phone. Holly LaFavors tried stopping her son's Amazon order for about 70,000 dum-dum suckers before the treats arrived, but it was too late. She owed about $4,000 for that order. She was eventually able to get a refund. More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Vote for me and I'll set you free.
Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Come together right now over me.
All right, folks, you certainly know what that theme song means by now. That's right. It's time for another episode of America Matters here on Zacky Radio. So welcome, everybody. It is 12:05 p.m. It is Wednesday, May 7th. And before we jump into anything, I want to give a big shout out, hello, welcome, and thank you to everybody listening on 93.7 KPGF, as well as AM 1060 there in the Reno area, and to everybody who's tuned in and listening on the Salem Network, the Answer Network, Radio for America, the Kevin Jackson Network, and AUN Television, and to everybody on those networks who helps make this broadcast possible. Thank you very much. And don't forget, you can always like, comment, and subscribe on the America Matters Media Facebook page. We want to hear from you. Oh, you can do it on the LinkedIn page as well, but you can also go to Zacky Radio on YouTube or Rumble. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, and follow. Watch the show as it comes out, but we want to hear your feedback. We want to have you get involved in today's show. And, today we've got a pretty interesting theme here. We're going to talk about agriculture and the environment and the control, collapse, and the conservative response. So we're going to basically tie all these things together and show you how progressive environmentalism is a direct threat against farmers, ranchers, and, well, just everyday Californians. So I'm glad to have Joshua Matriciana joining us today. We've got Eddie Floyd there in Reno with Shannon Lawson. So with that, let's, what do you say we dive right into this, Josh?
Sounds great, man. I'm excited about today's show. We got some really wild stuff coming up.
Yeah.
Mike needs to be turned up, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get this nailed down at some point, but
sure.
Anyway, we got a lot of things to discuss. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going on. I mean, look, from apex predators to atmospheric tampering. Well, we're going to show how the radical left's environmentalism has been turned into a weapon against we the people.
Right.
So whether it's reintroducing predators to California or spraying our skies with unknown chemicals to just simply robbing our farmers of water and replacing beef with bug patties. It's not about protecting Earth. It's about, well, controlling you. That's all it's about. So I want to dive in here to what's going on with the grizzly bears going on. So, talk about a predator. I mean, literally, the California Democrats are pushing to reintroduce the grizzly bear, which is an apex predator that once roamed the lands here in California and has been hunted to extinction. But now bureaucrats in Sacramento want to bring it, well, back to your backyard.
Wow.
So the narrative that they're pushing is that, if they reintroduce grizzly bears into California, in a place that has a vast ag sector with about 38 million people, that this is going to be a good thing. And don't forget, the last grizzly bear was seen in 1924, so quite literally 101 years ago. And they're trying to bring it back, as a ecological restoration. What do you think about that, Josh?
There's definitely a movement to bring them back. You guys getting my mic on here? Or am I still?
Yeah, you're still a little low.
Well, okay.
There, better.
How's that?
Yeah,
Better.
crank that thing to 11.
Yeah. So the California State Senate declared in 2024 the year of the California grizzly bear. That's to mark the centennial of the last known sighting in 1924, like you mentioned. So it's here's the thing, man. Like, we're talking about this. Why are we talking about a grizzly bear? Well, first of all, this is kind of an overarching theme for today. It's introducing something that there's potentially devastating impact on, and basically messing with nature in the sense that we don't know what the the potential consequences are.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, they were native to this area, and I understand that having the grizzly bears, it sounds like a nice idea, but how is that actually going to impact the state and the environment? Now, does the state have a need for an apex predator to keep certain animal populations in control? I mean, I don't know, but a big time lefty UC Santa Barbara professor Peter Alagona suggested that California could support over 1,000 grizzlies in regions like the Sierra Nevada and areas around Santa Barbara. So, well, I've spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara. We've had several homes in that area. It's rather populated. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some beautiful mountains and regions for wildlife, but they are really just right up against residential area. So I don't know if that's the smartest place to put them.
Well, also, I mean, what he's bringing up here is that we could support 1,000 grizzlies. Like, there is the potential for support, but it comes down to why. Why would you want to support 1,000 just to reintroduce them back into the wild where they could be potentially dangerous? I mean, the public opinion is mixed on this thing. Like, some people obviously are advocating for reintroduction of the grizzlies in their natural habitat of California from 100 years ago, but the concerns about the human bear conflicts, I mean, that persists. I mean, even after there was a confirmed, like, this was a black bear, this wasn't a grizzly bear, but there was a fatal attack. What I think it was like a year ago. It occurred in Shamatawa, the First Nation in Canada. The victim was a 60-year-old man named John Woods, and he was believed to have been killed by the bear, though it wasn't really definitively established whether the bear was a black bear, a brown bear, or even a polar bear, as all three of those species are known in that much more northern area. But this incident is listed among the most recent of fatal bear attacks in North America.
Yeah, and then we see footage of bears coming into people's backyards here in Los Angeles every now and then. So human contact is something that's going to be a thing that will happen. And there were 3 other serious non-fatal black bear attacks this in 2024 alone. So just like in October 3rd in Lake City, Colorado, where a 74-year-old man was attacked inside his home. So they when they want something, they go and get it. And so
that's a wild story, by the way. I mean, the bear charged the man, came into his house, and the guy like grabbed a kitchen chair and it like tried to move the bear out of the front door, but the bear charged at him. I mean, the story is wild. I know it's a little bit older; it's from a year ago, but still, that's what we're dealing with here. Why would you want to introduce an even more deadly animal into the wild? Like, for what reason? Is it just to make you feel good?
Right. Well, historically speaking, grizzlies were removed for a reason, because they were killing livestock and human attacks, and they were a threat to ranchers and hikers. And this bill's being pushed by out of touch urban legislators who've never raised cattle or hiked alone. So a quote from the ranchers is, "They're protecting bears more than farmers," and well, that seems to be the case. So this is it's all eco theater, all this nonsense. So they want to bring grizzlies back to restore balance. Well, try telling that to a rancher who just lost their livestock, or a hiker who won't make it home.
Right.
So, but if we're going to rewild our land with apex predators, and which I think is pretty crazy, they're also, reaching for the skies. So we're going to talk about that when we get back from this first break here on America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Eddie Floyd and Josh Matriciana. We'll be right back.
Hey, Bill, I'm really looking forward to our golf round today.
Yeah, Steve, I am too, and I'm super glad we have a cart because I can't walk much. My knee is killing me.
Sorry to hear that. I had an issue with my shoulder, but after seeing Dr. Tom Waldorf at Active Life Integrated Health, I'm as good as new.
Really? I'm going to call them.
Hi, I'm Dr. Waldorf, chiropractic physician at Active Life Integrated Health. The first 25 callers will receive a 10% discount on their treatment program by mentioning promo code Health Matters. Come see us at 971 West Moana Lane, or better yet, call us today at 775-842-0065.
Hello, Reno-ites. This is the G-Man, and I want to invite you to tune in to What's the Matter podcast. This is the podcast show where voices meet viewpoints and conversations actually matter. We're bringing together curiosity, candor, and a bit of chaos to talk through what's happening now and what it means for all of us. Join myself and Kelly Rush on Wednesdays at 4 p.m., pre-recorded at the Matterhorn studio inside the Reno Town Mall. See ya!
Hi, I'm Nathan Osmond of OsmondHomeLoans.com. I'm part of the elite team of Security Home Mortgage and want to become your preferred lender. There's never been a better time to lock in the rate. Unlike many of our competitors, we will not outsource your loan. Our setup, processing, underwriting, and closing staff are all in-house and will help you every step of the way. If you're looking to buy a home in Utah, or if you live here and wish to take advantage of historically low rates, then I am your mortgage man. Be sure to visit OsmondHomeLoans.com today to receive a free quote. That's OsmondHomeLoans.com.
NMLS number 2043092.
Barbecue the Butcher's Kitchen would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Barbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Barbecue Reno.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Eddie Floyd and Joshua Matriciano. We got Shannon Lawson there in the booth pumping it out for you. And while we were just talking about, well, they're trying to reintroduce grizzlies because, you know, that's another feel-good thing because they're so cute and cuddly, right, Josh? Don't you want to just cuddle up next to one while you're out there hiking somewhere, or, you know, just pet one as they stroll through your ranch land with your cattle?
Yeah, it's like the Berenstain Bears, man. I remember those books as a kid, so of course I want a grizzly in my backyard.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So does everything that they're doing here in California. And even things like, well, let's control the weather with chemtrails and clouds and all sorts of other nonsense. So get this. So in the UK, who's at the forefront of generating solar geoengineering experiments, because there's so much sun over there, they're aiming to manipulate the climate by reflecting sunlight. Well, I've heard Bill Gates talk about this too, where they're going to put all these metallic particles in the air that's going to reflect the sunlight and cool the planet. All the while we're trying to build solar panels to collect the energy. But okay, I follow. This is really smart. It's like washing your hands with mud. That makes sense. So anyways, while they present this stuff as innovative solutions to climate change, well, I disagree. The UK government has expressed clear support for research into geoengineering, and particularly solar geoengineering. What do you think about this, Josh?
Well, first of all, you're right on the money when you're talking about, okay, if you're trying to use solar panels, like there's to create energy, right? And then now you're talking about blocking the sun from coming in here with the skies in a country that already is barely any sunshine. I mean, I bet the British population doesn't want to have less sun.
Yeah, you should, like, you've been there. You were born there. Yeah, every time the sun comes out in London, like, everybody just flocks to the park and, like, just lays out there with their friends and, like, pops a bottle of wine.
60-degree weather is like a hot and sunny day.
Oh, yeah. And for me, that's just like bust out the jacket.
Right.
That's a SoCal thing.
Well,
so anyways, in April of this year, the government there announced it would pour $56.8 million pounds into these experiments on solar geoengineering. So that's a giant waste of money because it's just they want to fight the climate change. Ooh, the scary climate change that is going to drown the polar bears and the penguins because, these natural Earth cycles don't take, a normal course throughout history, which we've been able to measure. And, it's so I love how they're going after the sun now because they've been bitching about carbon. And now they're going after the sun, which honestly is, the reason things get warm or get cold. It's, sun's up, gets warmer, sun goes down, gets colder. It would be a little different if it got warmer at night than it did during the day. But look, there's solar minimums and solar maximums. And well, that's why these events take place. So when you're talking about a giant ball of gas millions of miles away burning in the sky, these events, well, they are proliferated over, well, decades, if not centuries, when these events happen. So that's why we have these cycles.
You mentioned something in here that it's kind of like a harbinger of things to come. First of all, the fact that they've already allocated, tens of millions of dollars, like almost $60 million or British pounds towards this means that they've already gone through their legislation. They've already approved it. They've already gone through all of the hoops that the British government has to jump through to get to that point. Now they've already allocated funding to it. So it's like when the money hits the bank accounts, that's when things start happening. And unfortunately, this is showing that we're not just talking about this. They're actually putting resources towards this to make it a reality. And when we see this first kind of investment, I guess, if you want to call it that, into the research of it, well, more money is going to be following that. And this is the beginning of and I'm sure you agree with this, a very slippery slope.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, look, they are supporting this. This is their plan B, which is also crazy. Like everybody is so just like brainwashed with this climate hoax crap, this climate change crap. I mean, even on my X feed right now, from a post I've got going, people are just like, oh, because I said man-made drought. They're freaking out. They're like, oh yeah, this guy's an idiot. Like, shut up. Like, you don't believe in climate change. It's like, no, I just, I've spent more than, 15 seconds thinking about it instead of just going with like, oh, that's what they said. So they're spending all this money and Parliament's greenlighting this atmospheric experiment, and they're going to spray these aerosols into the air to cool the planet. But do they even ask the question like, how does this impact humans? How does this impact our soil? Does this cause harm? Can these cause cancer? Will this make the soil not fertile for crops? No, they don't ask that question because they're hyper fixated on, we have to bring the temperature down. It's too warm. Well, it's not too warm. In fact, it's actually cooler now than it was during the medieval warm period, which predates what came after that, which would have been the Little Ice Age, which lasted for about 300 years. And that's why they associate the whole climate change thing with man-made industrialization, is because around the time of the Industrial Revolution is when the Little Ice Age ended. So they use that as a point to correlate that it's man who's responsible for this. But prior to that massive, industrialization, you had a cool period. And before that cool period was the medieval warm period, where they were quite literally raising, wine grapes in England. So that was a totally normal thing. And then prior to that, you go further back to the Roman times. On average, the temperature of the planet was 2 degrees centigrade warmer, which is literally 3.5 degrees warmer than it is today. So we know this from a historical standpoint, and they've been getting this whole climate change wrong for, decades, because back in the 70s, it was, global cooling is going to take effect. We're going to face these massive, ice age effects, because they had these like massive snowstorms in Chicago or whatever back in the 70s. And then it became global warming. And then, they couldn't do the global warming thing. And, Al Gore made that stupid movie and talking about how the ice caps are going to, Glacier National Park is going to be gone by 2020, whatever. Well, still there. Yeah, and then they changed it to climate change because the global warming thing didn't work out. So, but how can you argue climate change? I mean, of course the climate changes. There's seasonality, there's sunrise, there's sunset. I mean, I don't understand. But so anyways, so
Leo, I love your just the way that you come in with history. I mean, I really appreciate that's what I appreciate about you is that you really know your history. And unfortunately, there's so many politicians out there that have like this they forget things that happened a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, and you're remembering things because you taking the extra step, read it in books. Well, there's a novel concept. Maybe more people should do that. But I really appreciate how you're bringing the historical, premise to this because it's true. Everything you're saying, you've got facts to back it up, and it just takes a little common sense saying, hey, if you learned about history, you'd be able to kind of predict the future because everything's a pattern.
It's almost like if you don't learn history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Hey, you should coin that phrase.
Good. I must be the first person in history to ever say that. It's sarcasm for the radio listeners out there. So anyways, now, look, I mean, but they're talking about chemtrails, right? Which we have been saying like, yo, chemtrails are real and they're really bad, and they're making it public policy.
Yeah, you're wearing a tin hat if you think that they're spraying aerosols into the air. That's all for, that's just all for wacky people. Well, guess what? Conspiracy theorists, as they've been labeled by the CIA since the 60s, a lot of times tend to say things that now are mainstream. Well, who's going to go back and say that they were okay?
We're just a few months to a few years ahead of everybody when it comes to that. That's all it is. And it's not, and look, remember, conspiracy theory, it's two words. Conspiracy means two or more people getting together to do something nefarious. And the theory is the plausibility that could be the outcome. So when you drop the theoretical component, it's just people doing bad stuff. That's all it is. So chemtrails are real. It's now policy in the UK. They're spending almost 60 million pounds to do it. So, all right. They think they can just manipulate the planet like that. I mean, look, there are other things out there too, like HARP. That's where they bounce the radio waves off the the ionosphere. Thank you, Shanwell. And they use that to reflect and create heat hot spots over large areas, which can manipulate, where like weather patterns are going to take place. But this is all stuff that's been happening for a long time. So now they're doing this. And the UK, by the way, they in 2024, just last year, conducted a solar geoengineering project exploring the possibility of blocking 1% of the sunlight to lower Earth's average temperature by up to 1.5 degrees centigrade. That's crazy. Why would we do that? What? Because these people say they want to do it. What about how we feel? What if they're doing something that isn't correct and they're just trying to play God? What about that? So now this is what we're dealing with. Okay, you got the possibility that this is going to impact agriculture. It's going to impact in the environment in ways that they can't even see. Because here's one thing I've learned is you don't F with Mother Nature. Do not mess with Mother Nature. Okay? There's no way this is going to end well. Don't manipulate genes. Don't play God with spraying crap in the sky. Don't do that because it's gonna turn around. It's gonna bite you, and you're gonna have really negative consequences from that. So first they want to control the land with grizzlies. Now they're reaching for the skies to dim the sun. What's next? Controlling our thoughts? Well, they may meddle with the sky, and let's not forget they're already destroying the ground. So we're going to come back and talk about what's happening on the ground here in a little bit. I'm Leo Zacky with Eddie Floyd, Joshua Matriciana, and Shannon Lawson. We'll be right back.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by A Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
In times of market volatility, it can be a good reminder to revisit your financial strategies to make sure they align with your goals. Call 775-674-2222 or visit nvretirementplanners.com. Advisory services are offered through Nevada Retirement Planners, an investment advisor in the state of Nevada. Any insurance products and services are offered through Nevada Senior Advisors. Nevada Retirement Planners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Nevada Retirement Planners does not provide legal or tax advice.
Barbecue, the Butcher's Kitchen, would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Barbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Barbecue Reno.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
You're on mute.
Well, we're back. Left that button on. That's my mistake. Anyways, we were just talking about how they've got, they're trying to block the sun in a country that's already just covered in clouds 95% of the time, for those of you who've never been to the UK. So that makes a lot of sense over there. It's just a bunch of climate wackos and feel-good freaks that just don't think things through. And this is coming from a farmer who's worked with the land and animals and, been around it long enough to know that you just don't mess with Mother Nature, but they continue to do that. So now we're going to jump back here to California, where they're trying to bring the Grizzlies back. And we're going to talk a little bit about water. So right now, California's water policies prioritize the protection of the Delta smelt. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a very tiny bait fish. It's endangered. And they're putting this fish over the needs of the farmers and communities. And it's led to significant water restrictions impacting agriculture and livelihoods. And we've talked about this in the past, but it's still a trending thing, and it's important to understand. So the Delta smelt exclusively lives in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, and it's a critical hub for California's water distribution. And the efforts to protect the smelt have resulted in reduced water allocations for farmers, leading to fallow fields and economic hardships. The water restrictions placed on farmers would include them being limited to 1.65 cubic feet per acre. And just so you guys understand that, that might sound like a lot to some folks, but let me break it down. When you're raising citrus, for example, and by the way, California has more oranges than Florida. So we got a metric truck ton of oranges, and that's a pretty big deal. Well, they need 2.25 cubic feet per acre of water to be sustained. So when they get 1.65 cubic feet per acre, guess what? That's not enough. And when it comes to almonds, they need 4.5 cubic feet per acre. Wow. So the only way that the farmers in California are able to then sustain those crops is by, not watering all of them and removing portions of their fields. So what that does is it creates scarcity. and therefore the cost of those food items go up. That translates to a more expensive cost of living, and worse than that, that's still pretty bad. The other big impact is that it inhibits us from being a player on the global market. Because if your cost per unit is far higher than other producers in other parts of the world, then you don't have a competitive price point. And therefore, you can't sell that product outside of the country to make money. So you're stuck with your little market. But don't forget, our market is still being flooded with other product from outside of the country. So then the California farmers are put in a financial situation where they can't turn a profit because their product is not viable to sell because of their price point. Guess what? That happened to my family with poultry because of the arbitrary rules and regulation here. And after 90 years, our big company that was at one point the largest privately owned employer in the state and the largest poultry producer on the West Coast that was in business for 90 years had to shut down, and those jobs went away. Same thing with the farmers here. Farmers that have 50, 100, 200 plus acres that have had these farms in their family for generations, 5, 6, 7 generations. And they're put in a position where they can't turn a profit and they have no choice but to cease operations and sell their land. And that puts those farmers out of business. And then those farms wind up getting bought by big conglomerates, or worse, the Chinese government. So when that happens, you lose jobs, you lose the middle class, and you lose the ability to grow products like food products. Don't forget, there's starving people in the world. We're not able to produce enough food because of the water restrictions. You lose out on profit, you lose out on jobs, you lose out on tax revenue, you lose out on food production. It's just an all-around loser. So these efforts to protect the smelt have been decimating farmers. And it gets worse than that because right now they can only find the smelt in a very small section of the San Francisco estuary. And they're only there because they're being produced or raised in captivity and released by UC Davis to the tune of around 200, 250,000 of them a year. So they're not even able to be found in the wild. And they're associating this with the absence of water. Well, here's an idea. What if we built more water storage? What if we harnessed our snowpack instead of dumping our snow melt runoff from the Merced bypass into the sea? What if we were able to capture that, store it in underground aquifers, or just simply build more reservoirs? Or better yet, do all that and desalinization. But these are all solutions that I've developed for California. They're common sense. They make sense. But our government doesn't want to do that. And the question is why? Well, it's really simple. We know, or at least the state knows, what the relative demand is going to be for things like water. They have an idea. It's in some sort of a range. And then you have your supply, right? This is a supply and demand, very basic business concept. So if you have more supply than there is demand, then you don't get to have a premium. But if you can artificially lower the supply to near the levels of the demand, or even worse, below it, and create a scarcity, you can artificially inflate the prices and create more profit for yourself. This is what's happening here in California. And it's not about you, and it's not about the farmers, and it's certainly not about that damn fish. It's about money. And they're screwing you over, and they're screwing the farmers over, and enough is enough. So in January of 2025, federal and state regulators announced water restrictions from the Delta, prompting criticism from agricultural communities, and rightfully so. They are continuing to put the squeeze on the farmer.
In your business background here, I mean, this is one of the things that these other people who are running for office, they don't even take into consideration. And you're putting that on the forefront because the public needs to know. From a businessman perspective, this is what they're doing. And it makes sense to you because you've lived it, you've experienced it, you've been a victim of this. And the politicians are actually going against the best interest of the people, of the constituents. For one other thing here, too. Smelt, it's not a rare fish. this one Delta smelt, because it's been introduced in this area, that's just a scapegoat that they're trying to use to, again, put more control.
That's what it is. So they're sacrificing our farmers for a fish. This isn't about conservation. This is about control. And it's all it's ever been. They're controlling the skies. They want to control the bears. They want to control the water. They want to control you, period. And they never talk about creating abundance. They always talk about surviving through scarcity.
Right.
And that generates fear. And everybody's a wussy. Most people are wussies on this planet, I'm sorry to say. We can drop the W and add a P. But the reality is that this is being done on purpose. So when farmers are denied water, the government flushes millions of gallons to protect endangered fish. And they liken it to environmental protection, saving the planet. But these people have no skin in the game. They just do this for their feel goods and for money. Well, they pass it off as feel good. They sell you on this hopium. So farms shut down, food prices go up, and it's all by design. So
I feel like this is a common theme on your show, man. Like to call out where the overarching control is happening. And it's happening so often. Like there is no scarcity in content where the government is trying to take more and more and more, and the public is left with less and less and less. Less sunshine, less freedom to go hiking without predators, less water to water your lawn or grow your crops. I mean, why?
Less food and less money to buy that less food with.
Why do these overarching institutions like governments, why are they trying to take everything from us? That's my question to you. Why are they trying to keep us in this scarcity?
Because it keeps them in power. Because as long as they continue to promise you a way out or a survival mechanism, most people don't know what to do. They're just afraid. Everybody's afraid all the time. Like I said, you're all a bunch of wussies. Sorry to say it, but that's what it is. 9/11 happens. Oh, don't worry, people. We'll protect you from more terrorizers. Just give up your rights and your liberties and your freedoms and allow us to pass the Patriot Act, where we can then deem anybody a domestic terrorist and hold you in jail indefinitely without giving you a proper trial. Oh, no problem, government. Please take my rights, take my liberties. I just want to feel safe. I just want to feel protected. I don't want to have to worry about things. I just want to enjoy my life. I want to raise my family, do drugs. That's America. Oh, wait, I can't afford to raise a family. I'm just going to do drugs.
I mean, they want us to look to the government as our daddy. Hey, daddy, give me this. Hey, daddy, give me that.
Yeah, but they just want power. I mean, that's the thing. It's power and money, and these people want all of it, and they will not relinquish the control without. What's that?
What's that famous quote? Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
Nor safety. Yep. I agree. I 100% agree. You know, our founding fathers, knew damn well what they were doing when they signed that Declaration of Independence. They knew that if it didn't work out, that they were all going to die and their families were going to lose everything. And you know what? They said, screw it. We're going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And then only 3% of the local population actually stood up and took up arms with our founding fathers. And they beat back arguably the most powerful nation in the world and army in the world. And now we have America.
America.
Absolutely. So, anyways, and just like that, they want to control our land, our water, and our skies. And they're coming for your food next. So, we're going to talk a little bit about food when we get back from this break. I'm Leo Zacky with Eddie Floyd, Joshua Matriciana, and Shannon Lawson. We'll be right back.
Barbecue the Butcher's Kitchen would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7. Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Charbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Charbecue Reno.
Have you been injured in an accident? Trust Adriana Guzman-Freilich at AGF Law, your local personal injury law firm in Reno. At AGF Law, we pride ourselves on being honest, hardworking, and ethical. Let's meet in person to understand your case and fight for your rights. Located near South Virginia and Plum, we're always ready to help. Don't navigate the aftermath of an accident alone. Call Adriana at 775-453-9595 or visit adrianalegal.com. Your recovery is our priority, and we're committed to getting you the justice you deserve.
I used to love going for long walks, but my back just doesn't cooperate like it used to.
Same here. But ever since I started a routine with Active Life Integrated Health on Moana Lane, I feel more flexible and in control. You should check them out.
This is Dr. Tom Waldorf. Let's make it happen so you can feel better naturally. To schedule the beginning of your transformation, call 775-842-0065 or visit activelifereno.com online.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we're back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky with Eddie Floyd, Josh Matriciana, and Shannon Lawson. And, well, we've been talking about water, talking about grizzly bears, talking about, well, I guess chemtrails, because that's what the UK wants to do. But I want to talk a little bit more about food, like lab-grown meat, which sounds disgusting, or worse, bug burgers, and how this is going to impact global food chains. So, our favorite global overlords, the World Economic Forum, has been making a push for fake meat and centralizing food control. Because don't forget, if you control the food and you control the water and you control the power, well, you kind of control everybody. So this push for lab-grown meat has been backed by, well, despicable yet influential figures like Bill Gates, and it threatens traditional agriculture, and it raises more questions about food sovereignty. While marketed as sustainable, which I don't know if it's sustainable for life, but these alternatives have unforeseen health and economic implications. That's what's going on here. This stuff is not good for you. I mean, I love how the people that are like, oh my God, the Beyond Meat, it's amazing. It's got like 50 freaking chems in it when, my regular burger just has like meat in it, a little salt, pepper, right? Spice it, zhuzh it up a bit with a little salt and pepper. Also natural, single ingredients. So I don't understand how they're selling this stuff as green, and eco-friendly while they vilify ranchers. And, well, guess who's pretty invested in selling his gobbledygook because he's raising the base materials for it? Well, that's Bill Gates, because he's been buying up farmland all across the country. And he's the largest farmland owner in the U.S. What do you think about that, Josh?
Buddy, there's two major things here. First of all, Bill Gates is doing what business people do, which is, buy out their competition or destroy their competition. He's going to be the proponent who's trying to bring in.
Well, he's certainly going to bring in his poison. That's for sure. And he is going to push out regular American farmers because, well, like I said in the beginning of this segment, that it's about controlling the food. And if he can control the farmland, then he can control the food and where that food goes, because the farmer gets to decide who he sells what to where and do what with it. So if he owns the majority of it, he can start saying, no, it's going to exclusively go to making my Beyond Meat crap. And that'll also shrink the global supply of whatever food was available. But please continue, Josh.
Sorry about that. I don't know where I cut off, but first of all, making these Beyond Burgers or whatever, they actually use cancer cells because cancer grows so rapidly. That's part of how this meat is manufactured. So that, first of all, that's a weird thing to use.
That sounds really tasty. Like, who wouldn't want to go get a nice slice of cancer? Doesn't that? I could go for a little cancer. What do you think? Throw some beet juice on it, and maybe some glyphosate and atrazine. What other delicious chemicals can we go in there to spruce it up?
As long as it tastes good, that's all that most of us matters to most of us.
The funny part is like there's videos of him like doing that, and then like he's like, yeah, but I prefer and he's like all about his hamburgers, proper meat hamburgers, not his beef, not his imitation crap. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I mean, so the other thing is like, I'm not sure how much of this you got a second ago, but him buying up all this farmland. Well, of course he's doing what a businessman's going to do. He's going to buy out your competition. So we're left with no other options except to eat lab-grown meat and bugs.
Right, because he gets to dictate where his food that he grows goes, because it's still free market in that regards. He gets to decide who he sells it to and what he does with it. So, on top of that, they're pushing to make insects a protein source. Well, aside from being dehumanizing, it's also very unhealthy. Bugs have a chemical or a protein that's a part of them that, well, you're not really supposed to eat. And they're full of parasites, and it's just not good for you. So, again, this goes back to control. If they control what you eat and they control how you live, well, then they're in total control of everything, right? And Bill Gates is invested in his lab-grown meat companies, and he owns about 275,000 acres of farmland. And, the USDA, who is so wise beyond their counsel, has approved the sale of lab-grown chicken products by companies like Upside Foods and Good Meat. That's disgusting. Josh, you're telling me they're using cancer cells to do this?
Yeah, that's part of it. I was just talking about that to my wife today.
Would anybody out there, if you knew that these products were made with cancer cells, and I'm pretty sure all of us are extremely adverse to getting cancer, why would you want to consume cancer? It's like you are what you eat, right?
Today we've been talking about potential long-term effects, and again, one after another.
Yeah, they just keep hitting us with awful, awful poison. It's just one more way. It's control and kill, control and kill. And this is what they're doing to the population. It's almost like they're trying to fulfill the inscriptions on the Georgia Guidestones, which they technically did exist. They were recently blown up about 2 years ago. A part of it was blown up, and then it was getting a lot of national media coverage, and then they immediately bulldozed it and silenced anybody talking about it. But on those Georgia Guidestones, it said how they wanted to bring the population of the planet down to under 500 million in order to preserve nature. So when they're doing things like this, Josh, it's all about depopulation and control. And when you factor in AI, who needs all those billions of people?
This is going a little bit off topic, but because we're talking about it, eating bugs is something that it's actually commanded against in the Old Testament in the Bible. However, there is this very interesting kind of exception to that, and we all know about John the Baptist, the cousin of Jesus of Nazareth, and he was said that he lived on a diet of only honey and locusts. And weirdly, locusts are actually considered kosher, but that's completely different than what they're feeding. They're talking about eating maggots. When you're talking about bug burgers, it's not made out of locusts. It's made out of maggots.
Ugh. Yeah, ugh. Jesus, disgusting.
Again, though, would you rather have maggots, or would you rather have that come from from a natural source, or would you rather have cancerous bioengineered protein molecules that are grown in a lab? I think I'm still going to pick the bugs above the fake meat.
I'm just gonna raise my own food and move off the grid.
Good call.
I'm out. No thanks.
It'd be great if the government allowed us to, but it seems like all these laws that are getting passed restricts us being able to have, animals like chickens or ducks or turkeys that lay eggs. Because if let's put it this way, if every single person in the United States was able to have a couple chickens, they'd be self-sufficient, and there would not be this manufactured or whatever potential for crisis where they can price gouge eggs. Everyone would be able to feed themselves.
Well, to a degree. I mean, you wouldn't be able to. You'd need a hell of a lot more than just a couple of chickens, and you need to have a whole bunch of variety of things. But it's just so wrong what they're doing. It's all control. But this is why I continue to buy guns and ammunition. So, and you should too.
Amen.
The sponsor of our show,
freedom and the Constitution.
Yep.
Ghostguns.com. Just kidding. That's not
I just bought another box of 22 Win Mag just the other day. Keep buying the ammo.
Yeah, and come out and help build the gun tower at the Wainema Ranch.
No problem. That's what everybody needs to learn how to do, is build something with their own damn hands. So, anyways, states like Texas are considering banning this stuff, the manufacture and the sale of it, citing that it's got concerns over traditional agriculture. Good job, Texas. I love that. I really do love that. And how it could possibly affect agricultural yields, less sunlight, less growth. And this will definitely impact California if the food bowl of our country, which yields so much and so much variety, will affect farmers and livelihoods. We're going to have a lot of issues. So from the field to the lab, are we trading real food for Petri dish protein? Who benefits when we lose touch with our roots? That's a real question. Well, those in power. Because when a population forgets how to do things and only a certain group of ruling elites do, you become wholly dependent on them. It's amazing how thousands of years of human tradition, engineering, sacrifice can all be forgotten in one generation. Don't lose your skills. Don't lose your roots. Don't lose your talents. Continue to practice them and share those stories. It's the only way we can build a better future. So I'll leave you guys with this closing thought here. From apex predators to atmospheric experiments, from water wars to synthetic steaks, the common thread here is control. And it's time to stand up for our land, for our food, and our freedom. But it's up to you. Bringing wild animals into populated areas, blocking out the sun with unknown chemicals, fake food, water restrictions. This is top-down control masquerading as environmentalism. It's time to wake up. We love this land, not just its beauty, but its bounty. Let's fight for it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today to America Matters. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we'll see all of you tomorrow at noon. Have a great rest of your day.